Now under a stage 2 snow event today. So what does that mean? That means a full city plow. Enough forces to yank up this concrete. That was no match for it. Then here we are with the roots. And now you'll start to be able to get an idea of just how big we're talking about with these trees, these pine trees. So this is number 1. And I'm going to duck under here real quick. And then you'll see number 2 as well. So they kind of fell in parallel, right smack dab on top of the building, and I'm told that that's the principal's office in there. Out at Fairchild Air Force Base, civilian employees, with some exceptions, are supposed to show up this morning to get their furlough notices. So that loss of income begins today for them. And he's talking about places like this. This is where what's fallen as snow, didn't get a lot of it this year. Rain, hail, everything in between runs downhill, and this will eventually make its way to the aquifer. Jen, I just have one question for you, and that is, how did you get a hold of my demo tape from a few years ago? I sent that thing out on VHS, apparently.
I have my ways, I have my sources.
KREM-2 Morning News on CW22, 8 o'clock midweek. Was that Adam? Adam, is that your right hand that I just saw?
He's very enthusiastic.
From Gonzaga University.
Single.
I don't know if Adam
he likes
wanted you
me to throw that in there. Yes,
I don't know if he wanted you to broadcast that to.
He said it was fine.
Everywhere between Montana to Central Washington, down to Oregon, up to Edmonton, where we're on as well.
We have
I don't think Adam wanted that.
Hashtag date Adam. There you go. All right, we'll get to more on that and everything behind the scenes in a minute. But first, it is 8:01. I'm Laura Papetti, along with.
How have your matchmaking skills gone to
Laura.
To this date so far?
How are they?
If you gave yourself a rating, would it be a C? One of the highlights from last night, Bernie Sanders bringing a little energy during the presidential debate. First time that the Democrats got together on the stage, happened in Vegas, and a lot of reaction following that from people watching what happened, rating the candidates, how did they do, Republicans watching that as well. They will carry 2 crew members, 1 to drive, focus on that, and then another to entertain the passengers. Same person has been trying to do both. Change comes after this awful crash on the Aurora Bridge. Took lighter fluid, doused a bunch of Halloween costumes at a Walmart, and set them on fire. And so cell phone video shows employees with fire extinguishers trying to put that out. Amazon headquarters over in Seattle is letting holiday shoppers procrastinate. No.
Almost at it.
Procrastinate just a bit more.
Yeah, they're offering Prime delivery in not 2 days, but 2 hours or less.
By the way, Jen, procrastinate is when you have a fear of commitment.
Oh, is it?
Made that
Yeah, I learn something new every day.
There you go. They're still in some meetings and getting some information about the extent of these fires here in the Omak area. So this noon press conference where they're going to talk about that is delayed for a bit as they continue to work on that information here. In the meantime, earlier today, a lot of these folks in the Omak area north of town where these fires are burning, if they wanted to protect their property, it was up to them. There are many critical moments like this one north of Omak in Okanagan County today. Michael Whitley's working to stop a fire from jumping a road with his property on the other side of it. He's been up all night to try to keep that from happening.
With these south winds, it's going to burn straight to Omak, so keep it contained.
As people do here, he got some extra help. Dina Snell drove by, put her pickup truck in park, and used her hands to help throw dirt on the fire.
Devastating. Extremely devastating. People are exhausted and they're not giving up.
In some areas, there was nothing standing in the way of the fast-moving fire. It burned through several trailer homes in this area northwest of town. And while property is lost, many chose to heed evacuation orders and get out of there with their safety intact. You've been on some fires before and haven't really seen much like this, huh?
Never seen any fires like this. There's more of them. And the whole northern part of this state is covered with fires.
And now it's creeping down toward you.
It is there, you might say. It's already there.
Well, this is what he's talking about. This is OMAC, and then we see this huge fire here, and then another one also north of town. As we said, that noon press conference to tell us how much property has been lost, other information from this fire, anything with injuries like that. Still working on that information here at the Fire Command Center, and we expect this press conference, this media conference, to get underway a little bit later here during the noon hour. Laura, we'll send it back to you. All right, breaking news here at 6:45 out of Spokane International Airport, a plane bound for Denver. We've heard from two people now, slid on some ice and into a snowbank. So KREM-2 News has a crew headed out there to check on the situation. Now, one of the people we're in contact with said that everyone seems to be fine after this plane slid, but as Katie has been talking about, some freezing rain, some slick conditions out there this morning.
Situation. I'm going to send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Molly, and so we have two different shots, and that's the wider shot you're seeing there. That's kind of what Molly's looking at. Let's go back to that other shot that we had, and that does show some more detail. You can see some definite activity there from the rear right of the aircraft with people, it looks like, moving in and out. I'm sure some crews going in and out to get passengers, and that seems to correspond with what that gentleman on board the flight was telling us, is that there are still some passengers on the plane, and it's kind of a slow process. He said about 10 or so at a time being offloaded from that United Airlines flight that slid off about 6 o'clock this morning from the taxiway. This was outbound for Denver, so it's not like it was coming in for a landing with that much speed. It was taxiing at the time. What we're looking at now live is you see in the front one of those emergency vehicles escorting a couple of the shuttles. So if you go out to the airport, maybe gone to the North Shuttle lot, that looks like one of those vehicles, two of those vehicles that they have brought into service just for their capacity to get those people off the plane. 130 plus people were on board this United Airlines flight when it was attempting to take off bound for Denver at about 6 o'clock this morning before sliding off. So some of those shuttles coming back to Spokane International Airport, everybody okay? And the questions now remain, when is the airport going to reopen? Because the cause of this was the slick conditions, and the decision they made is that they will shut down the airport entirely, at least as far as the flights are concerned. We're not talking about like concessions and stuff inside, but as far as the flights are concerned, until they can be sure that the surface is safe for the aircraft taking off and landing, and had no estimate on when that's going to be. The culprit earlier this morning, freezing rain. And with more on that, let's head over to meteorologist Katie Boer.
Yeah, and good morning, Sten. We've been watching some of that freezing rain that we've been tracking here
Off the runway, so we are hopefully going to be able to have more information coming to you in just a little bit. I'm going to send it back to you, Sten.
Molly, thanks very much. And Molly, I want to go back to your picture if we could. And maybe if we could in the booth, could we lose the graphics there on the bottom? The reason I want to do that is that gives you some idea there of the surface and then where the plane ended up. So we heard from spokesperson Todd Woodard earlier that it wasn't too far off. You know, from the wide perspective, it kind of looks like it went off into the field, you know, maybe 10, 20 yards, but that does not appear to be the case. It looks like the rear tail of that aircraft was still positioned over the tarmac, and you can see that's why they chose that one particular exit to get the portable stairs to start offloading these people. Now, Molly made a good point as we spoke to the Spokane International Airport spokesperson Todd Woodard, who said, if you have a flight in or out of Spokane or somebody coming in, contact the airline to try to figure out what to do next to get around this emergency, because right now all flights are canceled until further notice, until they can make sure that that surface is safe once again. As we are looking from a wider perspective here, Molly Trotter can see that with her own eyes, and she's relaying to us that it looks like this is another group of passengers that are being let off the plane. Once again, as we've said, nobody hurt in this. As they are being let off the plane, a passenger on board said it's about groups of 10 or so, and that looks like one of those transit shuttles that they might usually use to take people to the north parking lot, putting that in use for a different kind of service today. I want to read you exactly what that spokesperson said about this incident. At approximately 6 Pacific time, United Airlines 737 aircraft, so that's the type of Boeing jet, slid off the southern end of the holding area of taxiway A. No injuries have been reported. The airport is assisting United with offloading the passengers, getting the aircraft back on the hard surface. The airport is shuttling passengers back to the terminal. We've seen that and are looking at that live.
About 30 minutes later, we saw that right there, and we saw that what that turned into with the slide off there.
We will keep our crews out there getting more interviews, KREM.com, KREM Mobile, and then everything together on KREM 2 News at noon.